Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this day. It's Jacqueline with Intuition Power and Alana Heim from Prosperity Alignment. Good morning
Good
in
morning,
Reno.
Jacqueline. Hello, hello.
What are we talking about today?
How to make a difference, right?
How to make a difference. That's a really important question today because there's so many of us, I'm going to include myself, that occasionally feel a little frustrated with the momentum or lack of momentum that our life purpose and so many people are not only still wondering why am I here, what am I supposed to do, but a lot of people that have the clarity on why am I here, this is what I'm here to do, feel stuck or feel what.
Blocked, intentionally blocked. And not from our source power block, but just for me specifically, I feel blocked by this world itself, the way in which it's been created.
And when you say that, and when I say that, all of a sudden I get this image of, again, going back to my non-surfing days, growing up near Santa Monica Beach, of like body surfing and in the wave, getting caught up, and you're surfing along or you're starting to catch a wave, and all of a sudden you get pulled under and you're scraped along the bottom and turned and stuff, and you have to just kind of, you don't know which way is up, and you have to just hold your breath and wait and surface. And sometimes you're scraped up and sometimes, okay, get out for the next wave. So there's the transition that we are definitely emerging from. And it's almost like when you get into that surf and you get caught up in that undertow, not even an undertow, but in that movement, knocked off your board or whatever causes you to do that. And there's nothing you can do other than be in the moment and calm down and follow the light, and as you're getting tumbled, and then you emerge and then you can assess and then move forward. The What's happening on the planet is the separation of frequencies, and everything is a frequency down to our cellular composition. And so, where am I going here?
Well, I think because I said that I'm being blocked. It feels like it on the planet, but like then you took us into, you're in this, like, you're just getting tossed around. And at some point, yes, you emerge, but you're still finding your center again. Kind of like we've talked about on so many of these calls. It's like we constantly come back to finding your center, being grounded, right? And you're spinning around, but you still have a sense of what is up or down. And I think that's the harder part is some of us just assume we've been up the whole time. And maybe we weren't. Maybe we were in a labyrinth where you don't know if it's up or down or inside out and to me, the greatest gift that we all have is our ability to create. And so even in that moment of being all over the place, you get to create whatever reality you want. You get to question it. You get to start to lean into being more curious of, okay, I just saw something from a whole new perspective and I thought I was here, but maybe I'm here. And now what does that mean?
Okay, so I've got a bookshelf here, and so I keep a lot of my favorite reference books. And believe it or not, this little book by Richard Bach, have you read this yet?
I don't know, but I think I have it on my computer because you've mentioned it before.
Oh my God. Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah by Richard Bach. I have every one of my students read this as mandatory reading. And it starts out it starts out talking about like as if it's handwritten, and it tells a little story. There was there one there was a master come unto the earth, born in the holy land of Indiana, raised in the mystical hills east of Fort Wayne. The master learned of this world in the public schools of Indiana, and as he grew, anyway, the little first story is about this guy who was pretty much enlightened, and he ended up being a mechanic. He goes into working on cars, and he realizes that the owners of the cars need healing, and he's working on the car, and then he works on healing the person. And pretty soon the garage gets so filled with people that are there for healings that he can't work on the cars. He gets fired, he moves to the next town and starts over again. So finally he goes, okay, God, every Sunday I'm going to meet people in the park and I'll just heal all of them and I'll share a little story. So one Sunday he's sitting, he goes up to the top of the hill waiting for his time to, everybody's coming together. And he says, God, if this is thy will be done. If not, let me know. I'm your humble servant. Whatever you want, let me know. And so God answers back. This is the first chapter. Not my will be done, thy will be done. Whatever makes you happy is what you're supposed to do. So he walks down the hill and the crowd is all there waiting. And he goes, here's what I have to tell you today. Go live your life and be happy. And they're going, I quit. And he goes, you can't quit. You're the Messiah. And then he gives a little talk that was very poignant. And then he disappears into the crowd. And then the story begins. Where does he go? What does he do? And it is such a brilliant, brilliant story that takes you on an adventure, thus well titled Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. And he meets somebody and he I'm looking at a card that was stuck in there. What is this card? I don't know. Anyway, there are little sayings that pop out throughout the book. This one is, the truth you speak has no past and no future. It is. And that's all it needs to be.
This is so beautiful that you're sharing it, just because this is for all of us to realize. Like, my perspective is, how do we exit the matrix, right? How do you take the red pill? How do you, right? And many of us are kind of in that space that we already kind of have, but we don't even know what that means. Or like, are we really in the matrix? Like, this isn't, whatever. But this is the part where it's telling us to follow our happiness, follow what makes us happy and joyful. And most of us are stuck in things we don't want to be stuck in, but we feel like we have to.
Oh, wait.
Like our jobs and yeah.
Right. So anyway, also in the beginning of this book, it tells a story about this little creature. And it lives in the river, along the side of the riverbed, and it's underwater, and its job is to cling on to the side of the riverbed, and the water like goes by, and this little one is born, and he's clinging on with the rest of the village, and he says, I'm bored to death. Anything is going to be better than this life, hanging on for no reason. I'm going to let go. And the village elders and everybody else in the village says, no, hang on. If you let go, the river is going to crush you and scrape you and break you. And it's going to be the most horrifying death you could ever beyond your imagination. Hang on. So he does for a short period of time. And finally he says, any death is going to be better than this boredom. I have to let go. And with that, he takes a deep breath and he lets go. And the river kind of breaks him up, but he doesn't die. And pretty soon he's flowing free with the current, and the river and heals him. Well, rumor travels fast in this river, and downstream there are other creature villages just like him. And somehow they get word of, well, there's a Messiah coming to set us all free. And now he starts to float by and he goes, The river delights to set you free. Let go and trust. Well, that's easy for you to say, they yelled back. You're the Messiah. And the little creature says, no, I'm just like you. Let go and trust. And with that, he was gone. And the river, the creatures just continued to call his praises, that once upon a time there was a Messiah that flew by and said, let go and trust. And so that's the beginning of this adventure book. It's delightful, it's fun, it's powerful, and everybody should read it. Illusions. It's the beginning of a trilogy, actually. And the second one is the author finds his soulmate and then in search of love. And then the third one is really addressing the matrix.
Love it. I love it. And I put that in a folder for me to read. And then I'm seeing another book I have in my folder to read, which you can talk about, is The Universal One by Walter Russell. And you know what's fascinating is I'm just looking real quick. This copyright was in 1926. And that's the exact year that I was telling you about this article that I was reading that was called When Woman is Boss. It was written in January 30th, 1926. It was all about this interview with Nikola Tesla and how basically he had already created cell phones and everyone would have a cell phone in their pocket. And here we are 100 years later. And right. But at the same time, you said Walter Russell and Tesla had met. So
they had met. And also I want to just give you a heads up. The Universal One is a very challenging book to get through because it goes into a lot of technical, it's what the book that Walter Russell wrote during his 40 or 44-day illumination experience. There's another book that is a lot easier. Wait, let me grab it. Well, I'm not going to grab it, but it's here somewhere.
What's it called?
It's called The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe. Where's that book? It moved. The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe by Glenn Clark is an introduction, an overview of who was Walter Russell, what did he accomplish. And if you like that book, then I was told when I started my metaphysical journey, the accelerated one, to read 3 books. Two by Walter Russell. One is The Divine Iliad, and The Divine Iliad and was it The Secret Light? I'll have to look it up. But the Divine Iliad 1 and 2 by Walter Russell, and it might have been The Secret of Light. Right, I stand corrected. The book that he wrote during his illumination was called The Universal One, which is technically,
you said was complicated.
Backwards. If for example, gravity is not an outside, it's not a pulling in, it's a pushing from the outside. It's the opposite. So the problem with getting into the Walter Russell, if you're a scientist,
it's all inverted.
Backwards. It's completely backwards. So everything that you've been indoctrinated to believe is true is not necessarily accurate at all.
And just that's where I want to say that's the inversion of, you believe this is to be true, and yet if it's not true, and if you can be curious enough to question and even be a little open to then read what you're talking about, you can really expand consciousness for yourself in this reality in a different way.
Right. And the Secret of Light was the other book that I was told to read, and either The Secret of Light or The Divine Iliad, it starts going over numbers, like what is 1, what is 2, duality, positive and negative, male and female, rhythmic, balanced, and you start to understand principles. Well, when that book, I think in the early part of the book, getting into one, I sat there for about 3 weeks. Every day I read the same 2 paragraphs that I could not comprehend. And I had a sense that the rest of the book, if I don't understand these 2 paragraphs about the number one, I'm not going to understand the rest of the book. And I just kept reading. It's like, these are English words, but it's not making any sense to me. What does it mean? And I didn't know I was meditating on it, but I just kept rereading it until this makes sense. I'm not going further. And finally, after about 3 weeks, it's like, oh, that's what it means. And then I got through the rest of the book and it was really pretty easy. The home study course, I went through it. It took me about 2.5 years to get through the 1 year home study course. It was 4 lessons per month for a year. And I would get 1 chapter at a time, like 4 lessons. And sometimes it would take two months to get through that. And then I'd get the next one. And then by then, a lot of my students heard me talking about it and wanted to do it. So then I was like supervising and then ended up kind of teaching that group. And then again, the 3rd time through that year-long home study course, unit 11, like, which gets into a lot of the technical science, finally like popped in. It's like, oh, I get it now. And before it was just kind of saying words, but all of a sudden the concept came in. And I was talking to someone about AM radio versus FM radio, how the energy travels. One is more line of sight, one is more atmospheric. And when it's hot, it does this. And when it's cold, it does this. And I ended up in this conversation because I was on AM radio. I was on FM. I was on FM radio and my friend was on AM radio and talking about the difference in the signals. And for some reason, and I said, I don't understand the difference, AM, FM. And he started explaining, and all of a sudden I said, oh, I get it. And when it's cold, it does this and that, and da, da, da. He said, I thought you didn't. He said, exactly. I thought you didn't know anything about it. And I said, well, I didn't know I knew anything about it, but it's all Walter Russell. It's universal law, how energy works. Oh, you did Walter Russell. Yes, of course it's Walter Russell, because he had known it. And so I, it's like, you understand certain aspects that you don't even know you'd understand, but there's a comprehension. So when you get on this path of self-discovery, it's like you're exploring, who am I as God or source, manifesting, I'm spirit here having a human experience.
But not in the fluffy way or the inverted way that we've been taught or told.
And I think the end result of all of this is if you're a punching bag and somebody punches it, then it pops back up. When you get really advanced in your spiritual studies and grounded, not only do you punch back up really fast when the universe like pushes you, like stress, but you get to the place where you move before it hits and you get out of the way and you don't even get punched. So when certain people say, how did you handle no arm with surgery last year and you couldn't use your arm for months? So, well, how did you do that? You weren't like freaking out or whatever. It's like, I just dealt with it. It's like, I washed my feet and I used my feet to help me cook my meals. And I saw people with, God bless them, no arms, and they are able to function. And it's like, it was an experiment in being functional. And it like, were you falling apart? No, I was functioning. It took a lot longer to do certain things, but I got through it. And the drama and trauma was minimal. So there, we're in this life, and there are so many ways, like your work, outside of just talking to me and having wonderful conversations, transforms people's lives extremely fast, which is amazing. And theoretically, so does mine. Encouraging people to take classes, seminars. If you're in a program and you're not getting self-empowered, not in an ego way, but resolving your ego, so there's more generosity of spirit, more compassion and joy on a daily basis, then consider flipping stations and checking out something else.
Yeah, because where we are and what's shifting on the planet, and I have a human design woman that I've followed and learned from. Karen Curry Parker, what she's saying is what we're leaving is the age of knowledge and moving into the age of inspiration. And I would even go so far as to say not just inspiration, but creation, right? Because it's no longer that knowledge is power, because I think a lot of the knowledge that we've acquired has been inverted. And so if you can stretch yourself or be inspired to now create and find some of this literature that you've just given us, which I'm excited. I'm like, ooh, okay, because that's what I'm digging into. My inner child wants curiosity to come into not just what is possible, but how do we then create from that place? And if everything I've been taught is actually not necessarily true, is questionable at best, right? That's where you all can start. We all can start. It's just kind of start to see the gaps, the holes, where's the light like cracking through it just in a little bit. That if you can then open yourself to go down some of these rabbit holes, read some of these pieces, and especially like there was such wisdom 100 years ago, and we never hear about any of this stuff. And if it's still captured, which, I love, I think it's like archive.org, or there's some of these like platforms that have scanned in Congress Library, they've scanned in old texts and you can find them. And they have great information. And it's like they've tried to get rid of it so we didn't have access to it. But your curiosity, your inspiration, that is like going to drive you to then go crack open a whole new world. You're going to get to create from that place and game on for where we head in the world.
Yeah, there's a thing called the Gutenberg Project, and it has royalty-free downloads on a lot of material, books, you name the subject, it's there. So it's a really good resource to use and have. And so there's a lot of great places to get your stuff, and audiobooks, a lot of great stuff there while you're walking, exercising. Listen to something inspirational.
Yeah. Or outside the box, which is where I live. So I am finding like information about Antarctica. Some of these like hush hush, you're not supposed to talk about, you're not supposed to know. Like,
Isn't it funny? Antarctica is kind of rhymes with Tartica, or what's it called?
Tartaria.
Tartaria.
Yeah. And in some of these maps, so some of these things that I'm finding and listening to, this woman's done all kinds of research, all of the old maps used to show the world differently. And they would call it the Antarctic Circle. Because why? Well, I don't know if it was just, oh, that's it. There's just a little bit of land at the bottom, but what if, and so it starts to open you to go, what if it isn't what I think it is? And why can't anybody travel over there? And then to see maps where people will show you, here's the flight planes that all land in New Zealand and they never travel east. So there must be a wall there, but nobody's allowed to go see the wall. And then some guy saying, every time he's ever flown there, and I've never been there, but they're told to always put their shutters down, right? So they don't want you looking out. And I'm like, well, why? It's just all these things that, again, we're just like such noble sheep to just follow along and do what we're supposed to. And yet this is the part where, maybe it's time to start questioning or like figure out a way that you can put your camera there and you can like have it be
Poke holes in
seen.
that spot.
Yes, yes.
Right. Well, if you're tired of poking holes and not getting answers, contact Alana Heim, prosperityalignment.com, and also on
Patreon.com. You can find me. I've got a whole free and paid different libraries of everything and anything I've created in the last 10 years. So I'm just gathering what I can and putting it out there. And we're going to be working with Jacqueline. We need to get everything that's here and all of this truth that you have, find ways to start being able to share and spread it as well.
we're working on it. So anyway, intuitionpower.com. Thank you very much for listening. Please press that share button. You never know who this might help or inspire in some way. And have a really great Earth Week and springtime or fall, depending on where you are on this planet. So thank you, Alana, and hope to see you same time, same channel next week.